right. Let's move on to Bellator 296 recap. Mousasi versus Edwards. So it went down title eliminator bout between Bellator former Bellator middleweight champion Gegard Mousasi and Fabian Edwards were the headliners. Went down at the Accor Arena in Paris, France. Let's first talk about this main event in the middleweight division. Fabian Edwards gets it done over Gegard Mousasi by unanimous decision after 5 rounds. What do you guys want to say about this, Mark?
Sorry, I just realized Gary is 15 in my rankings. I was not taking out the champ. I forgot
Let's fucking go, baby.
I forgot to, because he's 16 on the list, but it's because I have my champs as 1. So
I will take 15. Ian Gary for the win. Prio rankings are back, baby. Let's go.
As I fuck up the Bellator clip that we're inevitably cutting that now starts with me talking about Ian Gary. Back to Bellator. So is this going to be just me here doing a Bellator run-through, unfortunately?
So I watched the Lima fight, the Primus fight, and the Edwards fight.
Oh, you did? All right, boom. Sweet. All right, so what are we doing? Mousasi to start?
Yeah.
Tough one. I mean, first off, props to Fabian Edwards. It is certainly not easy to beat any version of Gegard Mousasi, and Fabian Edwards did that, and he got it done. But I'm also going to call it like it is. And that is to say that was, without a doubt, the worst Gegard Mousasi I have ever seen. I did not like how he looked the entire fight. They both came out kind of tentative early. They were definitely trying to make their reads and feel the other out. I thought Fabian looked a little less stiff than Gegard did. I thought he looked stiff in the striking all fight long. Then round 2, Fabian kind of almost falls into a takedown. And it was evident real quick that he didn't quite know what to do when he got there. Like, he was on top for a while, but all the strikes were from Gegard. He was trying to set things up. He eventually turns it around. He's pouring it on, and then he threw an illegal knee. So that sucked. He literally may have had a chance to get Fabian out of there in that moment. He really was pouring it on him, and instead he throws an illegal shot. I do think he intended for it to hit the body. Fabian raised his knee right as he was throwing it, and it kind of bounced off Fabian's knee, and instead of hitting the body, it then bounced up to the head. So it got redirected. I don't think he was trying to, throw the illegal shot, but he did. But even at that point, I'm sitting there like, all right, he has seen the avenue to victory now. He's going to take this thing right back to the ground. He sees the advantage he has there. And then round 3 comes, and there's zero effort from Gegard to accomplish that. He's just kind of sluggishly striking with Fabian again. And Fabian's a pretty slick striker. Like, you got to give it to him. He strikes a lot like his brother, actually. Yep. I can see a lot of Leon in him. And I really think Gegard's ego might have gotten in the way here, because they were talking about on the broadcast before the fight how everyone was telling Gegard that he had to take Fabian down and shouldn't risk striking with him, and that Gegard kept saying he was going to win the fight on the feet. So it kind of felt like to me as that fight was going on that he just didn't want to take Fabian down because it was so obviously there. Then he loses round 3, he's losing round 4, and finally midway through round 4, he goes for the takedown, and he's fucking dominant. As soon as he does, he's beating on him, he takes the back, Fabian gets up, he takes him down again. And I'm still like, as that round ends, I'm like, wow, like, did Gegard get 2 of these? Like, he might have. It might be 2-2. Maybe we could still pull this off. And then round 5 comes, and freaking Fabian takes Gegard down and just controls him the whole round and kind of lays on him, and Gegard can't get up. So that was a wild switch from seeing Fabian in round 2 look like he didn't even know what to do on top to being able to control him for all of round 5. So I don't know, just an incredibly frustrating performance for me, for Mousasi in every way, especially on the feet. I thought he looked really lackluster for a guy who is so skilled on the feet. And, as I said, it was super disappointing. It's possible that maybe it's starting to be over here. I mean, it's been a hell of a run. It's been a ton of fights. The dude has been around forever. He's one of the few guys that fought in Pride that is still even actively fighting. I can't even think. Are there others? I guess Nick. Well, is Nick actively fighting? It's not shocking if we're finally hitting a wall. And in MMA, when dudes hit a wall, sometimes it will come quick. So we might be there. And who his biggest fan was in this fight is Johnny Eblen, because now seeing Gegard lose to Fabian Edwards, who is a guy that has lost to Austin Vanderford not too long ago, I think the shine kind of comes off Johnny Eblen a little bit because that win doesn't maybe mean quite as much as we thought it was. Thought it did, excuse me. So we'll see. Maybe Eblen can look very dominant against Edwards and kind of grab that back. But yeah, just disappointing performance from Gegard.
Yeah, I mean, the striking for me, I think, was really where I had the most problem. And I wonder, as the fight progressed, even through the first round, I kept trying to think to myself, like, what is the issue here? You know what I mean? And I get the setups and things like that, but the setups were never actually used for anything. It just seemed like an entire round of setups.
Agree totally.
Right? We never actually tested the setups out. You have to do something to see if that setup worked, right? In order for you to figure out if you need to adjust or not. But Gegard spent 2, 3, 4 minutes maybe throwing jab, lead leg kick, jab, right kick, jab, cross, right kick. Like, he wasn't really doing much and just kind of leaning back. The only thing that I thought about was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, because I thought I was going crazy a little bit. Gegard is normally a lefty. He's a southpaw normally. Right?
Fuck, I didn't even think about this. Was he fighting that whole fight switch?
He was fighting the whole fight orthodox, and it's because the Edwards brothers are both southpaws.
Yeah.
And so I expected going into that fight, I expected to see
so weird.
I expected Edwards and Gegard to be fighting southpaw versus southpaw, which I thought even still was going to be a fucking weird fight for at least one of them because, think about it like this. It's difficult for guys to fight lefties when they're orthodox because you don't see a ton of lefties out there. But the only person who sees less fucking lefties than the orthodox guys are other lefties. They don't see it either. So it's not natural for a lefty to just as easily fight another lefty. A lot of times they're trained to fight orthodox fighters. It's still backwards in the end. So I don't know if Gegard made a conscious decision to fight most of that fight orthodox when I feel like he fights these things southpaw. I didn't even go back and check.
Now I'm debating this. I think Gegard's always orthodox, dude.
Is he?
You got my mind fucked up when you first said it.
Like, I feel like
I don't think Gegard's a southpaw.
Either way, I wonder if the southpaw thing really played into it. Because
yeah, that's still a good point.
He looked uncomfortable. He looked 100% uncomfortable throughout a majority of that fight in every part of the stand-up. You know what I mean? He had a couple little things here and there, but he just couldn't figure it out. He couldn't find the entry. He couldn't find the momentum to keep anything going. And I thought Edwards stood out a little bit, right? Like, the ground game was evident, but the striking I thought was so damn good and so crisp and on point, and he was wrecking Mousasi's body. I mean, working that dude's ribs with his kicks. And there's not a lot of damage you really need to take in there before it starts to affect your cardio, before it starts to affect your physical ability to, like, keep your shit together. And Edwards was ripping him a lot throughout those 5 rounds. So, yeah, it was a good performance from Edwards, man. I was impressed by Edwards in that fight. I thought he looked great.
Yeah. Mark, you want to talk to us about the co-main?
Well, so I'll match these guys up first real quick before we move on. The Fabian Edwards one, they booked it in the cage. They literally announced the date in the cage that he's going to fight Johnny Eblen for the title. So that one is a given. Or actually, I say I'll match them up. I'm not even going to really match Gegard up. I just don't know what is left for him in Bellator. Like, it's hard because if he was in the UFC, like, I'm sure there's like another legend type guy where we could be like, let's go that route. It'll be a fun one. In Bellator, like, what do you do? Is he just going to keep fighting up and comers at 185? Like, I don't know if that's what he needs to be doing right now. I guess he could go to 205 and fight like a Yoel Romero or something, which could be fun. But it seems like there's not a ton of options for what is even worth doing for Gegard Mousasi at this point.
Okay. Gegard is orthodox, by the way. I did look it up. Yeah,
but still, as you said, the fighting a lefty may have troubled him.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought that dude fought southpaw. I have no idea why. Yeah, I know.
But yes, Mike, I would love to talk about the co-main. Are you introing me, or am I just going into it?
Just do it.
Dive into it.
All right. So in the co-main, in the lightweight Grand Prix to see who would get the next title shot against Usman Nurmagomedov, we had Brent Primus against Mansour Barnaoui. And what an awesome fight this was, especially in front of the French crowd pulling for Barnaoui. It was a fun one. And Barnaoui started off hot. Like, when he is on, he's a fucking wood chipper, man. Like, he was putting Primus through it in round one. Nasty clinch work, but Primus was withstanding it. You could tell from the jump, like, he was like, I'm not going to be going away in this fight. And he landed a real clean combo right at the end of round one just to kind of get some respect back and let him know he was there. And then round two, we saw an immediate takedown from Primus, and then we just got treated to what was a beautiful chess match on the ground. Both guys trying to set things up, both guys kind of moving to stay safe. But all in all, Barnaoui was kind of stuck, man, and I said it last week. Brent Primus is a really, really sticky grappler, and he's hard to get off you. And Barnaoui finally did it with like 20 seconds left in the round, but by that point it was a clear Primus round, and it was 1-1 after two. Then round three, Barnaoui comes out and picks up the pace big from jump. He's striking in tight in the clinch. He hurt Primus bad. Primus dropped for a second. I thought it was going to be it. Barnaoui got on top. It seemed like it was all going his way. And then the next thing you know, Brent Primus is on top, and he's trying to lock in a choke. Like, the dude was just absolutely not going away easy in that fight. He's really just a very strong and impressive grappler. He was still down 2-1 at that point, only 2 rounds left. But then round 4, he manages to drag it down again. He locks up an arm triangle that looked real tight at times,
Yep.
and Barnaoui just kind of sat there in it, man. You could tell his level of grappling to sit in there the way that he did, because it was like 2.5 minutes and adjustments and different squeezes. I started to think Primus was going to burn his arms out. But Barnaoui survived it, and it was all knotted going into the 5th, and Primus came out and got another takedown. And I said it last week. I thought the grappling could be tough for Barnaoui. As good of a grappler as he is, Primus is just a strong, sticky dude, and it was even tougher than I thought it would be, the grappling. Primus controlled him all round 5. He took the back, and he got himself out of there with a really, really gutty win, because he was hurt multiple times in that fight and had some bad optics multiple times in that fight and still managed to get it done. And he certainly won the decision 48-47. Huge win for Brent Primus.
100%.
Very nice.
The thing I loved about this fight is for all the back and forth, all the momentum shifts, all the absolute craziness in this fight, every round to me was pretty clear who had won, right? Yeah. And we really did get to the end of round 4, and it was really 2-2 going into that round 5, and I don't think there was any question about it. And these boys went, I mean, this was an absolute war from the beginning of round 1 all the way to the end of round 5. I don't even know how many chokes this guy Primus put this man in. I lost count after 3. It was out of control. The whole fight was absolutely crazy. Barnaoui is an absolute savage too. Like, he also, by the end of that fight, was a little fucked up and was still coming forward and still trying to crack Brent Primus and still trying to wreck this man on the feet. I mean, Brent Primus is a wrestler. Barnaoui seems to be... What is Barnaoui, actually? What is his actual style?
He's kind of a mix. He's a solid striker, and he's most of his wins are by sub. He's like a finishing style of submission guy, but the problem was he was just up against a dude with really high level grappling.
I asked that because both of these guys I feel like could do very well in BKFC. That whole fight was basically a bare knuckle fight with gloves on. They were holding onto the clinch, throwing uppercuts, smashing each other in the face. I mean, it was a beautiful fight to watch. I mean, there was definitely technique in there, but there was, at the end of the day, some real raw attrition that had to go into that. And it was a hell of a fight. Absolute barn burner. Yeah.
Yeah, I called last week that I thought Barnaoui was going to have to look to the clinch to win that fight, and he certainly felt the same way because he tried, but could only get 2 rounds out of it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, as I mentioned, we're now going to get Brent Primus against Usman Nurmagomedov for the title in the semifinals of the Grand Prix. And, man, if we ever get some grappling in that fight, it would be pretty amazing to see. But you got to think Usman maybe just looks to keep that one on the feet, and that maybe he can do a better job of that than Barnaoui could. As for Barnaoui, he is clearly an exciting fighter. He's skilled. I would give him a solid name. I don't think you really take him out of the mix because of that loss. I think he's earned another shot against a solid name. So I'm going to say another guy who recently lost in the tournament in Tofik Musayev. I think that'd be a quality, fun fight.
Nice. Just keep rolling, bud.
Oh, all right. Down the card, we have Douglas Lima making his middleweight debut in Bellator. Well, not debut because he once fought Gegard for the title, but officially making a move to middleweight at this point in his career and getting the UD win over Costello Van Steenis. Love to see Lima back in the win column. He certainly had a rough go there for a bit. And it was a good performance. The first round was pretty close, but I thought Van Steenis was generally first, and Lima was kind of waiting to counter, but not always getting off. Plus, Van Steenis mixed in some takedowns. I mean, Lima was up quick, but I think Van Steenis did enough to go up 1-0. But in the second round, Lima got going. He started actually throwing. The kicks were working. The patented Douglas Lima leg kicks were doing damage. He got noticeably less passive. And then round 3, he landed a huge right over the top, wobbled Van Steenis, closed in with like a nice combo, but Van Steenis kind of did do well to survive and clear the cobwebs. And then I thought we were going to get a really exciting final, whatever it was, 2-3 minutes, because I thought Van Steenis would know that he obviously had a push to try to take that round back. And he shot takedowns, sure, but Lima was stuffing those. And I really thought that Van Steenis was going to have to open up on the feet and go for it, but he didn't. And Lima kind of just knew he was ahead, and he played it safe for those final minutes, and he got out of there with the W. So, good on him. I thought Van Steenis could have maybe pushed it a bit more, but it's a nice win for Lima, and we'll see what he can do now at middleweight because it's definitely interesting to see him up there.
90% of this fight was a Muay Thai fight. It was very interesting to try and bring that to Douglas Lima just straight on, right? Like there were a couple of moments, like you said, like Van Steenis went for takedowns almost kind of towards the end of the round, and I think a lot of that probably comes from his lack of confidence in being able to really land and do something with them. I think he was trying to do it mainly for points, maybe to edge out the round, try to play that game in the judge's eyes. But that was a Muay Thai fight. And 2 and 3, I thought Douglas Lima really had his range, really had the timing, was countering very well, was stuffing a lot of the forward movement from Van Steenis. I give Van Steenis credit though, man. The kid was game for sure. I just don't think he fought the right fight. I think he played a Muay Thai only fight and didn't really consider that that's probably not where you want to be with Douglas Lima, to be honest. I think just like, what was the fight we were just talking about where we had a Gegard? Maybe a little bit of pride, a little bit of ego went in there. Maybe Van Steenis really thought he could just walk in there and just bang with Douglas Lima like he's not Douglas Lima. I don't know, but it didn't work out for him.
Okay, Gouti?
Yeah, the last one. This would be I'll say real quick, sorry, before we move on. I would love to see Douglas Lima and Anatoly Tokov. Tokov's always been a guy that I like in that Bellator middleweight division. Been around a while. Obviously, Lima has as well. I think seeing the two of them go at it would be a fun matchup. Moving on to this fight that you said. Thibault Gouti, or actually Gouti is what we realized it was on the broadcast,
Gouti.
Which we should have known because the dude was in the UFC for like 6 fights, but somehow I forgot that it's Gouti. But yeah, he gets a round 2 knockout of Kane Mousah. This was a very fun fight. Both guys were going for it. It was Gouti who had the better grasp of the range early. I'm sure the 5-inch reach advantage was helping with that. He dropped Kane with a really nice combo in round 1. But then we got to round 2, and Kane Mousah is just walking Gouti down. He's pressuring. Gouti starts to look like maybe the pace is wearing on him a bit. And just as you're thinking like, man, Mousah may be taking over this fight, Gouti just lands a picture-perfect counter right hook backed up against the fence, and it was a 3-piece combo that he threw. First 2 got blocked. Third one certainly did not, and Kane went out. So it was a great finish from Gouti, and the Paris crowd was loving it.
Very nice.
And that will wrap up the Bellator recap here.